message this morning is about family, and most specifically about lessons from family. Dr. Harris, when she asked me if I would consider doing this, I said, oh my gosh, what will I talk about? She said, well, just choose something that you're passionate about. And the truth is, I'm passionate about a number of things, but most of them are not things you want me to get on my soapbox and talk up front here about. So I decided to choose the topic of family because family is definitely something about which I am very passionate. Family has always been important to me because it, together with my faith, has been my foundation, both growing up and still today. Those of you who know me a little bit know that my immediate family, my husband's and mine, is really pretty small. There are a total, on both sides, of 10 of us. And in fact, just recently that number went up by one because you may be aware that last month our oldest daughter, Christina, had a little baby girl. So we have a new granddaughter, and that brings us from 9 to 10, which is huge. Those of you who are parents or grandparents, you know what incredible joy a new baby is to the family. It's something that's, for me anyway, very hard to actually put into words. But I also know that family can also be a source of deep sorrow. We as a congregation in the past 2 weeks have lost 3 members. And I think we all feel a sense of sorrow whenever we lose one of our own. This past week also marked the 5th anniversary of my father's passing away. And I was very close to my dad, and he had a great deal of influence on me. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the lessons that my parents taught me, things that I would like to think I have, not just I, that we have passed along to our children and eventually to our grandchildren. I have a plaque that hangs in my kitchen above my sliding glass doors, and it reads, "Other things may change us, but we start and end with family." And I've always really loved that. It always reminded me in the past about my biological family. But since getting ready for this, I realized that actually that plaque can talk about not just the biological family, but also about the family here at First United Methodist Church, and also our larger Christian family. Each of these families hopefully provides us with faith and hope and love and security, support, and strength, and the list actually goes on. In turn, each plays an important role in shaping who we are and what we believe. Each teaches us life lessons that we can carry with us throughout our lives and perhaps, hopefully, pass on to our children and the following generations. It's been mentioned a few times already, and now I look back at the church, I see the big word hope in the back. It's my belief that strong families can provide hope for the future. Because if we can keep our families strong and we can teach them the lessons that we have learned from each of our families, then I think that is hope for the future. My dad lived with us for about 5 years. And he had on his desk at home a little clipping that he cut out of somewhere. I don't even really know where. And I read, over the years, I've come to understand that the basis for our lives is personal experience. Good, bad, or indifferent. Our experiences and how we react to them are what defines each of us. So I'd like to take this morning just to share with you some of the life lessons that my mom and dad taught me and have absolutely shaped who I am. Some of you may be aware that I am a first-generation American. My parents both were born and raised in Germany, in and around the town of Hamburg, which is way up north in Germany. My dad grew up with his maternal grandparents. He was part of a blended family of mine, yours, ours, and their children. His parents did not have very much money. His grandfather was a cabinet maker in the local shipyard, and he was a bartender in the evening. His grandmother was a cook in the same shipyard, and she cleaned homes of the shipyard owners on her when she wasn't cooking for the crew. My mother grew up actually in the city in a more traditional family. Her father worked for the railroad, but neither households had very much money. And yet, life was good. They would have told you that. So life lesson number one was that happiness is not about material things. Rather, it's about family and friends and relationships. Both my parents loved spending time with us. They were always there to listen, to help and support us when we needed it. And although, in the case of my father, he rarely said the words, "I love you," we all knew he did, and understood that in the process, family was what made him extremely happy. At 14, my dad went to work as an apprentice in the local shipyard, and he was drafted into the Navy at the age of 17. Most of his Navy time was spent off the coast of Yugoslavia on a small boat that had been converted to a minesweeper. My mom lost both her parents at the age of 17 when the Allies bombed the city of Hamburg. And so she was sent to an area which is now part of Poland, and she taught school there. When the war ended, my mom came back, and my father, who had been detained in a prisoner of war camp, returned to a country that obviously had been dramatically changed. But life lesson number two: accept what life brings you, but be strong and make the most of it. Be content and don't dwell on the past. I will tell you that I have a really tough time with this life lesson. I am definitely someone who has a difficult time with change. However, I recognize how important change is. That the world is always changing, and not necessarily for the worse. Sometimes for the better, hopefully for the better. And I do understand the importance of being strong and moving forward. After World War II, my dad met my mom. They got married, and in 1950 they came to Chicago, where my dad worked as an ornamental iron worker until he retired. My mom worked in a lingerie factory in Chicago, and later worked in the grade school where my brother and I went to school. Life in 1950 and the years following were not necessarily the easiest for people who came here from Germany. But my dad and mom were hard workers, and after a few years, they both were able to to build their own home and move from the city out to Medina, which is where I actually grew up. Life lesson number 3, work hard and always do your best. Both my parents loved to work. My dad in particular derived a huge amount of pleasure and satisfaction from it, whether it was his job, or it was putzing in the basement, which he loved to do, or remodeling the kitchen in our home in Medina. It didn't matter really what the work was, he reveled in it. He instilled in us the value of hard work. Growing up, he always reminded my brother and I that our best was what was expected. And even my husband and my children, believe me, were held to that lesson. Beginning during World War II, and certainly during most of his later years, my dad dwelt with several health issues. He developed Parkinson's disease, and as I said, he lived with us for about 5 years when he simply couldn't be by himself any longer. Parkinson's disease eventually took away most of what he loved. His ability to work with his hands, his ability to sing, to dance, to walk, and eventually even to speak. Life lesson number 4, take care of yourself physically, but also mentally. Have balance in your life. Anyone who knew my mom and dad knew, in particular, my dad loved music. He loved to listen to it, he loved to sing, and for years, both he and my mom sang in a German chorus that used to meet in Elmhurst. But they would travel around and it was always a great time for them. My dad also loved to eat. He had an amazing appetite, especially for sweets. And of course, being German, he loved his beer. I think it was a great disappointment to him, actually, that neither my brother nor I are very fond of beer. So that was a little hard for him to take away. Life lesson number 5. Live life to its fullest, for it's shorter than you think. Most everyone who knew my mom and dad knew how much my dad loved to celebrate. Whether it was birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, it didn't really matter. Just the fact that it was Sunday was reason for him to celebrate. He was the reason that we as a family continued to celebrate occasions, and why for many years we used to have Sunday night dinner, which was open to anyone in the family who could come. The last couple of years, we haven't done as well with that, but Christine and I were just talking about reinstituting Sunday night dinner, just because it gives everyone a time to just keep in touch. As I said earlier, I like to think of the importance of my family, and I like to think of us as a circle of love and strength, founded on faith, joined in love, kept by God forever together. In this way, I believe that family is one great source of hope for the future. In the words of Mother Teresa, what can you do to promote world peace? Go home and love your family.